Yes, good evening, people. Welcome to the Crystal Palace match reaction for Back in the Nest. Obviously, it's not D tonight. It is not T tonight. It is me, AJ, joined by my lovely man, Stan here. How are you doing, sir?
Good, mate. How are you?
Not too bad, not too bad. Happily to be finally over the line in that game. As we will go through on the show. Wasn't exactly the best performance ever, but you know what? We won. We're through to the next round. Nketiah got his first goal.
Yeah.
Eze knocked out his former club. And we are more essentially through, man. So, how are you feeling about the game?
I think we made really, really hard work of that game. We made very, very hard work of that game. But I'm a little bit like you. We're through. He played a strong team. Job done. Next round of the cup. We move. I will say, QPR, they're a mid-table championship team, old school ground, intimidating atmosphere. We're not going to go there and play them off the park, just like people think like that. So I think the win's important. I'd rather be us now than Fulham, who are 13-all against Preston away at Deepdale on penalties, and they've the goalies have gone. And they're now back to take us 1, 2, and 3. Iwobi just rifled for Fulham again for the second time. So yeah.
Well, winning midweek games against championship teams ain't for everyone. That's all I'm going to say about that. That's all I'm going to say about that. Before guys, I continue. Please make sure that you leave your comments down below about the game. How you feeling? Positive, negative. At the end of the day, we try to interact with all of our fans on the channel when we appreciate your support. And more importantly, please do leave a like down in the corner for us, because obviously that gets the algorithm out there, that gets more fans out there, and we can get more fans included within the content. And more importantly, thank you so much for sharing the show with us tonight. So where do I start? With the Palace element side of things, obviously it was a full strength side. It wasn't exactly the most convincing performance, but Stan, what do you make of the performance out of the fact that we played the first team?
So it wasn't convincing. There were a few changes. We're missing Wharton. We're missing Decore. I don't think that Kamada works in a midfield too. I think he's wasted anywhere but number 10. You could see after Sarr came on and he went a bit more forward. He dropped a little bit. He stepped up a little bit. He was so much better. The link-up play was there. He was so much better. I thought. How can you say it? I thought they made hard work of it. I thought a couple of players didn't have great games though, man. They did not have great games.
Is there any kind of players that stand out for you? Because for me, obviously everyone's going to mention Kamada, and I've seen a lot of the negativity around Kamada. And let me just be straight with this. Kamada is a very experienced international player. He's played in Europe. He's won in Europe. He's won under this manager. He is in a different league. He's learning a brand new language, and I'm prepared to give him the space and time. That's just how I see it. I didn't expect him to rip up trees straight away. But are we being a little bit unfair towards Kamada? Because I think reality of the situation is a lot of people have kind of looked at him and thought, oh, okay, he's the replacement for Elise. And I feel like that's an unfair tag for him to have. So have you kind of written him off already, like with a lot of fans have? Are you willing to give him a bit of time? What's your thoughts on him?
You know what? I was quite frustrated by him. I'm not going to lie. In his first couple of games, I think writing him off is a bit harsh. I mean, we are only 4 games into a Premier League season. We played 6 games in total. I think he's going to need some time, but I think he is painfully slow. Sometimes he's painfully slow, and I think with Elise, you had the tricky feet. He was on the wing, etc., etc. But he's a completely different type of player. So, I think we've got to give him time. But I do think he's wasted anywhere but 10. You've got to play him as a 10 and you'll get the best out of him. You saw when he come on Saturday, he played as 10. He was fine.
I don't know for me, man. I think he's already scored for us. Granted, it was against Norwich. It is what it is. But I think we need to be a little bit more respectful and just give him the time. I agree 100%. Now, I actually do like the fact that Glasner played a full-strength team because he is taking the cup seriously, which we as fans have probably demanded since the dawn of time, to be fair. No more risky games or no more trying to sort of take the elements of us potentially having a surprise result of it. So I'm actually pretty happy he played the full strength side, to be fair. But then I guess for you, Stan, and I guess for fans to put in the comments, what are we saying in terms of the fact he played a full strength side? Would you have liked him to bring on any sort of youth players or any sort of players that you wanted to sort of come into the fold?
I think you got to wonder, did the game allow him to bring on Franco Ume or Asha Agbenoni? I think he was on the bench as well. Like, did the game allow him to do that? I mean, we were 1-1 and 2-1 and they were chasing it. I don't think that's a cup that he's taking seriously and he's looking to progress in. I don't think that's the opportunity to bring those guys on, to be honest with you. So I'm happy that he stayed as he was. And you know what? The subs did their job. Hughesy come on, did his job. Sarr come on, did well again. So, yeah.
So on that point, right, would you, and I guess this is a bit of a cheeky question, but I guess, would you have happily have seen the game go a little bit left or maybe potentially onto penalties if he did bring on Agbon or Umar and stuff like that? Because I'll be honest, QPR gave us a very good game. You know, the atmosphere was, QPR were up for it tonight, man. The poor cameraman was having a mare. I couldn't even see the line on our side of the pitch, to be fair.
Yeah, did you see the camera? The camera angle was terrible.
Paramount, you're holding the L. That's
for
you.
That's you're holding a big L.
I couldn't tell, right? There was about 6 or 7 times, right, where the ball came on, and I thought, oh my God, the ball's gone off the pitch. But then I just see Munoz just come out of nowhere, like, or just see shadow and pick up the ball. So I would have thought if QPR are planning for Premier League football, they might want to try to sort it out or maybe put the cameras on the other side of the pitch.
Yeah.
But would you, going back to what I was originally sort of alluding to, was it a situation where you thought, you know what, if he did bring on one of them sort of youth players and took the risk, would you have happily for him to have done that? Or do you think he's gone ahead and done the right thing in terms of, you know what, just stick with the strong team and just get over the line?
He's done the right thing, no messing around. And that's what we need in the Cup, in my opinion. Listen, we all want to see youth players come through, etc., etc. And I think under this manager, under Oliver Glasner, if they're good enough, they will get the opportunity. Like, they definitely will. We shouldn't be messing around with a Cup that we're looking to go as far as we possibly can in. So he did the right thing.
I agree. The only question, and this is where I'm playing devil's advocate, because when it comes to arguing and making these points, it's hard to put across. I think the way I'm looking at it is I'm sitting there thinking to myself, when is the opportunity going to be? Because right now, the way that the team is playing, it's like we're taking too long to get started. We're not really gone out of first gear at all.
Yeah.
And the only way you're going to be able to introduce or incorporate those players into the first team is when we're comfortable in a fixture, i.e. we're like 4-0 up, 3-0 up, or we're in a situation where we are so comfortable in the way that the game's going, things are going to start coming into place. And then you've got to also equate to, you got França to potentially come in the fold. You got Decore still sort of nursing himself back to full fitness. You then got to have Hughes and stuff like that. When those first team players are available, and if the manager or, you know, in this instance, Glasner starts playing them all 4 strength teams and we start, at some point, I feel like their momentum is going to click in. I just don't think it's started yet. I don't think it's
me too.
Yet.
Me too, yeah.
I guess at what point of the season will those youth players get a chance? Does it come nearer to the end of the season when we know we are guaranteed to finish in X place? Do we wait until the FA Cup to see if we get a favourable draw? Because with the League Cup or the Carabao Cup, for me, that's a tournament we need to take seriously, and that's a tournament we should be targeting. And some of the notes and some of the quotes that came out of the players, i.e. like Nketiah, which we will get onto in a moment, were saying that we need to take these games seriously and we aim to win every single game. So with that in mind, is Glasner, because I haven't seen anything out of Glasner to suggest that he is pro bringing youth players through. That's not me writing him off or saying that in a negative stance.
Mm-hmm.
It's just he's more interested in the result than particularly appeasing the fans and getting a youth player through. Whereas I know the likes of somebody like Patrick would be really, really keen on that becoming a thing because he watches a lot of youth games. I mean, I do too.
Patrick also wants to win a Carabao or an FA Cup, right? So it's right. So
you see what I'm saying? So I think where the $1 million question is, where does that opportunity come, or at what point do we sort of take that in consideration? Do we wait for a fixture pile up, an injury crisis, and get an accidental Wan-Bissaka scenario? Where's that opportunity coming from? Because me personally, if we're chasing as many points as possible, and we've kind of had quite a slow start to the season, and we're ambitious about cracking that top half of the table, maybe a potential part of Europe, then are we going to realistically risk it? If we're playing Man United on the weekend, is Agbong really going to come on for 10, 20 minutes? I don't see it happening.
Listen, I don't think that he's going to come on over the weekend, but he's in and around the first team. He's in he's in the squads. So I would imagine that there could be an opportunity for them to get their chance. My personal thing is that there's a lot of people. Listen, and I know that I've obviously, in the past, different managers, I've been very sort of negative, and I've been obviously panicky, and I've talked about my feelings about the club, and probably sometimes too much, whatever. But I think that now we just need to all be positive as a fan base. We're progressing in this cup. We never progress in this cup. We're taking every single game seriously. That's important. Listen, we don't have the squad of even a Villa, right? Let's be real here, where we can go a million miles an hour in every single game, right? So it might be this season. Would you take finishing 13th and being in the quarterfinal of one cup and the semi-final of another? That's the situation, right? You've got to look at it. I just don't think with the squad that we have, we can do both. And you want to bring the young players through, you want to do this, you want to do that. It's so much at once, you know what I mean? We've got a fantastic manager, but let him work it out and give him a bit of time,
Yeah, I've noticed Mark Bichelle in the comments has mentioned that apparently there's no cohesion and no rhythm in our play. That's a very, very fair point. I'm just not feeling it yet.
Yeah, I don't think we've got going at all.
We really haven't, to be fair. But then there is also a second argument to suggest that we're now in the next round of the Cup. Granted, out the first couple of fixtures, there are ones that Leicester, I thought like we could have, essentially we should have won that game, or should have aimed to win that game, because I wasn't at Selhurst at the time, which is heartbreaking, but that's another conversation, to be fair. But we're 2 points in. We're not really in a relegation zone. It's early doors, but we are through to the next round of the Cup as well. So has it been a bad a start as we've made out? I'm not seeing it. I don't know. I'm not fully convinced that we need to start being at panic stations yet. I think there's clubs that are lower to us that are in that situation. And on that, thank you, Sam, for the donation. He said he don't have the squad. Stop. So, why don't we have the squad? I don't particularly agree with that.
Our squad is really, really good. Okay, but I'm just saying we don't have the squad of a Villa or someone around there, right? We just don't, right? We don't have like-for-like replacement for every position, etc. And that's it. I think anyone that's panicking now, you got Alex here, and he's like, the start has been utter shit. Dude, come on, honestly, are we going to find something to moan about? Even when we don't have anything to complain about, it's not been great, but I think you've got to give it 10 to 15 games, man. We brought 3 players in on the last day of the transfer window. So Nketiah's up and running. He's opened his account today.
So I'll tell you what then, because obviously I'm getting mixed answers here, and I'm seeing the comments and stuff like that, right? What are we saying? Comments, yeah? I'd love to see in the comments. Do we sacrifice chasing the top 10 and push for a cup? And I don't mean particularly win the cup. I'm talking, do we push for Wembley? Do we push for the semi-finals? Because naturally, as we go to, as we've known in our history, when we get to a semi-final or when we get to a final, there's always a big boy Man United or a Chelsea or an Arsenal. It could even be a Tottenham. Bit of a terrible example after the weekend they had. But do we sacrifice pushing that top 10 place and put more emphasis on the cups? I'd like to know in the comments, please, down, guys. Because that's a very open discussion. That's a very good conversation to have. Me personally, if we got ourselves into let's say FA Cup final, Carabao Cup semi-final, right? Hypothetically, and it means we finish 13th.
We only had 2 rounds of the cup so far, so we're a bit ahead of ourselves. But
yeah. But you know what I mean? I'm just thinking, playing a bit of devil's advocate here. Do we sacrifice that? Because if we go back to the Vieira times, we got to a cup semi-final and we still finished 12th or 13th. But coming at the end of that season, we felt so positive and so enlightened as fans, and we just were ready and itching for the next season. There was definitely a bit more of a better vibe. So if Glasgow was able to potentially achieve something like that, would you be willing to sacrifice the league? Because at the end of the day, if we don't get, of course, if we don't get relegated, granted there's points, maybe there's a very slim chance of Europe, but then do we, if you win one of these cups, you're getting into Europe anyway. So why would that matter? That's a conversation I'll be interested to have in the comments. So please comment down below and let me know on that. What I would like to move on to, this gesture. Mr. Nketiah scored his first goal for Palace. The link up with Eze. What are we saying, Stan, man? What are we saying? He's going to start going on to a golden... Are we talking golden boot? What are we talking?
Firstly, did you see the finish? The finish was sublime.
It was clean. He nearly did it again on the left side.
He did. He's up and running. Listen, he was... he played 10 today. They played him as a 10.
Yeah, I noticed that. He wasn't an out-and-out striker, but then...
No. So, listen, this guy... I know that he's come from Arsenal. Like, there was question marks over his goal scoring record. He didn't get a lot of game time there, to be fair. I'm telling you, this guy, he could be good for us, I think.
I think there's something there. He looks happy. And I think more importantly, I've seen his interviews historically in the past at Arsenal, and his goal conversion rate compared to the actual games he played is actually very good. It's very impressive.
Yeah.
So are we saying Nketiah sort of dropping down into that number 10? It was almost like we had two number 10s. Like, it was almost like an Eze, Nketiah, and then Mateta just in front of him. Or do we kind of let the manager tinker around a bit and maybe potentially move to two up front and then maybe Eze behind? It'd be interesting to sort of see how that is, because what I don't want to do is I don't want to try and put one of those strikers in a pedestal and then that ends up isolating the other. That's the way I'm sort of looking at it, to be fair. I mean, it'd be beautiful if both of them could get 11, 12 goals, potentially higher each. But I have to be a realist, It's all different. It's all cute when you play on FIFA, but when you're kind of doing it in the real world, and you're playing against teams that set up certain ways, and a lot of people do sort of say that the 4-4-2 or the 4-whatever-2 strikers up front has been dead for a while. So what are we saying? Do we think they can link up together up front, or do we just keep Nketiah there because he's managed to be successful and get a goal tonight?
I think they can do both. I think, you can play them one way or the other, depending on who you're playing, how the game's going. They did it Saturday as well, remember? He switched it up. He went two up top. Sarr came on, added a bit of width, caused them all sorts of problems, And it's like, Nketiah, if you see, like today he cut in twice, he scored once. You see on Saturday, he did the cut in again and he nearly scored Saturday again, right? So that's what I'm saying. I'm excited about him because I think he is a good player. He can beat his man. He's strong as well. He's good on the ball. He knows the link up. I think JP's link up today was a little bit pedestrian at times, if I'm being honest. Not cussing him or anything like that. He's obviously, he's been great for us the past 6 months. But I'm just saying it was a bit, but him and Nketiah and JP, they need to find a rhythm. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
I'll tell you one thing that I picked up on the game. I feel like Sarr needs to get starts. Personally, I think when he came on, he was lively. He was lively, and I don't. Maybe it's based on maybe this way that the manager wants to play, and maybe he's just trying things out. Because I know historically, Glasner always uses the first 5 or 6 games of each season to tinker with the team. So part of me slightly expected this. I did expect us to have more points. I'll be honest, in the league. I did expect us to be in that position, but maybe as time goes on and maybe Saul goes in confidence, I would really like to see him start a couple of games. I don't know if maybe because he knows Kamada or maybe he trusts Kamada a little bit more. But I would definitely like to see him start more games because every single time that man has come on a pitch so far this season, he has looked brilliant. I can almost see why Dougie was so fussed about having him for a long time.
He's so quick as well. Like, he adds that pace that we just don't have at the moment. Like, we are pedestrian in our play at times. Like,
it is one of them things. I think it's just that we just need a bit of a bang, a bit of an essentially a kick up the arse. We need that in some games, and I feel like we've almost had a lot of slow starts going into that. Guys, make sure you please put down any questions and just a little cue next to it, and then we'll try and go through the questions before we end the show. We're not going to keep you up till all night. We do know it's a school night, and some of us got to go work tomorrow. So if you do have any questions before me and Stan go on our way, please leave them down below. One last thing before I do get to those questions I wanted to address was the defense. Now, I'll tell you what, when the transfer window finished, a lot of people are hypothetically putting out, this is what our defense is going to look like. We're going to be unbeatable, unbreakable. I know it takes time for guys to get to know each other, and I know Chalobah's not really been added to the mix yet. I don't know if he's maybe got a fitness.
You got to add him before you can, yeah.
But what we're saying with the defense, because obviously Anderson's gone. We bring in Lacroix, which was just funny because I was under the assumption that Chalobah was fit and Lacroix wasn't. But what do you make of the defense, or our new look defense right now? Because I feel like it can be got at, and it looks like it's been got at quite a few times so far this season. Do we need it to gel? Are we convinced? What are we saying about this defense?
I think, again, we left it so late to, we sold one, like our linchpin, or one of them. We sold Anderson, and he was, he was a big part of it. I think, Lacroix, he's had 2 okay games. He's not Anderson. Chalobah's not been fit. I will say Richards was poor today. I love him. I think he's a great guy, but he was poor today, man. Like, so many misplaced passes. QPR had a chance right at the end that went just narrowly wide of the post, and it was like he let that ball bounce and he let the guy take his shot. So I don't think he was great today, but I think the defense will be all right. My worry is wing back cover, because Munoz and Mitchell both look absolutely knackered at the moment, because I'm not surprised, because there's no one in their position. I will say Henderson, 2 mistakes in 2 games now, needs to be better.
Do you know what, right? He has pulled off some unbelievable saves in the last couple of games. That's why I'm going to have to come to his defense. But you are right. I feel like he needs to command he definitely needs to command the defense a little bit better in front of him, which leads to the first question, which is from, is it Elgin Suchek? And he's basically asked, whilst Gay is a great player, do we think he is a vocal enough to be captain?
Yes.
What do you think, Stan?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not really. The thing is, nowadays, the modern footballer, you can't really give him the hair dry treatment anymore, can you? I think.
Listen, anywhere apart from England, the captain is a ceremonial role. It's the guy that goes and tosses the coin, right? So it's Spain, Portugal, France, whatever. I understand, but listen, he is a generational talent. I know people are going to be like, oh, he's made a few mistakes, so he's not. He's an absolute baller, this fella. He's an England regular, and he's more than held his own in the Premier League. Like, what does he not demonstrate to be captain? I think he fully deserves to be captain, and he's the best pick. My choice, my personal opinion. Who else is going to be the captain? What? Decore? Nketiah? Right?
That's the problem. There's not really any outstanding candidates, and let's be honest, man. The guy leads by example.
Yeah,
I think you have to don't always get sucked into the guy that's running around screaming at everyone. It's
not Roy Keane. Like, there's a Roy Keane gone, bro.
I don't think you'd even be allowed to be a Roy Keane nowadays. To be fair, let's be honest. Woke nonsense. To be fair, you wouldn't be allowed to be doing any of that nowadays. But I think Gay is a brilliant club captain. I think with him is he represents the club off the field, and just his demeanor, and he has no controversy. He just model professional, to be fair. He just gets on with the job, gives you a solid 7, 8 out of 10 every game, sometimes more. Yeah, I'm more than happy with Gay to be a captain, to be fair. I don't think you have to get sucked into the idea of being a nutcase on the pitch as such.
No.
Another question we got from Tim, shout out to Tim, is when do you think Glasner will have a settled starting 11? Stan?
Wow, $1 million question. The sooner the better is what I would respond to that. Is probably the sooner the better. I would say, honestly, I think it's going to take up to 10 games for this team to be settled and in a rhythm and stuff like that. That's what I think. I'm not saying we're going to be in and around the bottom three and stuff like that, but I think we're going to see some up and down results for a little while longer yet before it gets better.
Yeah, I mean, I answered this at the beginning earlier on in the show. It's just a case of, look, you've got to understand that with somebody like Glasner, historically, he always tinkers with his team at the beginning of the season. So in terms of a starting 11 that he has settled, plus everybody knowing their role in the team, it will take a few games in. The problem I feel like is nobody's gone in and ripped up trees so far this season. And that could be a combination of players being tired, obviously having competitions over the summer. It could have been that's then reflected into the preseason. You've also got to consider a lot of these guys came in on deadline day. A lot of these guys probably even had a preseason with us. A lot of these guys are still getting to understand each other, know the system. Mm-hmm. We've lost a few we lost Anderson, who was a key player on our defense. We've also lost Elise, who is just on his journey to becoming probably a world class. He scored 2 goals tonight.
Bang 2 today, bang 1 at the weekend, like
light work for him, and so that's not an easy task to replicate. But more importantly, it's not an easy task to then gel a team together, which has 2 key indispensable players in the team. And then you sort of replace them with quality, yes, but then remember that quality needs time to gel, it needs time to bed together. So that is what I feel about that one. Right, last question before we go about our business. Do we have a better academy? This comes from Onome. Do we have a better academy than Brighton? That's my question. Bit off topic, but yeah, maybe. I think we do.
Maybe.
The only reason why I say I think we do is I think, the truth's in the trophies, isn't it? I mean, our youth teams are constantly winning things. They are, especially over the past couple of years where we've got that Category 1 status as well. There are players that are really doing some big, big things at that level. I guess the follow-up to that is, can they transition that into the first team? Is there going to be a new Wilfred Zaha or Johnny Williams or, whatever said be player coming out of that youth team?
Yeah.
Having to make that break when they were when we were a championship club back in the day and we couldn't afford to sort of fork out 30-40 million pounds for players, that was one thing. But now we're in an environment where we are a Premier League team and we are trying to push up the table. So as a youth player, you need to be able to show a manager of elite level, like a Glasner, why you should be around these world-class players. So, sorry, I wouldn't even say world-class. These Premier League standard players. That is no easy task for any young man to do.
Yeah.
And I think on top of that, you've also got to consider, you've got the likes of Ozo, you've got Raksaki and stuff like that we potentially believe are ready for the first team. But then on top of that, if they're in a position where they're not quite ready to make that transitional sort of movement into the first team, what youth player is going to be. So it's just a case of just trial and error and sort of figuring out, to be fair. I mean, I don't know if you've got anything else to add on to that, Stan.
Well, I think, I think in the long term, our academy will be better because we're from South London, and the talent pool there is vast, right? So we will be a production line for excellent players in the next sort of, 5 to 10 years. The ones coming through now are the ones at the beginning of the new academy. We've got world-class facilities now as well. I think everyone wants to see like a local lad come and play for the first team, and Johnny Williams or Wilfred Zaha or anything like that. But it's a lot easier said than done, like you said, right? I mean, Palace are an established Premier League team now. It was different in the Championship. when they had no money, no players, and Warnock went to the youth team and found Scannell, Victor Moses, Ashley Paul Robinson and Lee Hills and stuck them in, John Bostock, and he could do that. But football's moved on a lot since then. So trial and error. It's going to take some time. A few cup games, maybe. I know Teo had a Ramola. He had a nice run out in a cup a couple of years ago. Ozo's played a few times in a Premier League. Raksaki's probably got like 2 or 3 Premier League appearances as well. So, let's see.
Thank you, Stan. So, guys, that's us. We're about to wrap up and let you guys get on with your lovely evenings. I think more importantly, the most important thing was that we got the result. We're on to the next round and obviously bring on the cup draw. Hopefully somebody a little bit more easy, or maybe we need somebody hard. I don't know. Maybe that might pull the players out and get us on a little bit more of energy.
No hard draws. Preston at home, please.
Preston at home. I'll be there. I will be there. I promise.
That's it.
So, more importantly, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Please, obviously, do not forget to, leave your comments down below. Obviously, please give us our likes. Let's get these likes up and up and up and up. Get the show, get the channel and everything pumping up there as well. Obviously, it's me hosting the show for the first time as well, so you better definitely put those likes.
Big up AJ.
Thank you.
First time host.
And more importantly, thank you to this man, Stan, for taking the time out of his lovely evening, because he's a very busy man and coming in that. And obviously, we can't be here without you guys. So much love and support. And until next time, guys, up the Palace.
Up the Palace.